Guys, I was not going to get on here. Well, I was, but I wasn't. I don't know. Just so much to bear, so much to even say. People don't understand my videos, and it's okay. It's okay. You'll understand it very, very soon when this hits you in the face. CIA operative Dutch sense calls out the earthquakes that I've been predicting a year and a half ago. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. It is 6:30 p.m. Central Time on the 21st of August, 2018. It is Tuesday here in the States, Wednesday internationally, and we do have some
By the way, I created Psychosis from WCW. Enjoy.
breaking seismic news for you guys. If you've been paying attention over the past hour and a half, we have the largest earthquake in years striking at the mouth of the Caribbean at Venezuela. And this is a significant sized earthquake to break out. And I don't know if you guys have gone over to Twitter yet, but you probably should at some point go over to Twitter. You know what? Maybe I can just take you over there and look at it together here. Let me quickly search. I didn't even think to do this. Earthquake. Okay. All right. Let me get a display capture turned on here, and you guys should be able to see what I'm seeing. Before we even get into the earthquake update, let's just go quickly and look at the latest, and we'll bring it down here. Now, again, we've got all kinds of reports, but look at what we've got, guys. Look at this. This is exactly what I'm talking about with debris falling outside of a building. If you go running out, look, the building's still intact. So it's a parking garage, too, it looks like. So you could be inside the parking garage. You might run out and you run into a worse situation than just staying inside. I mean, check it out, guys. Look, we got live shots of all the... Look at this right here. Look at this one. This one is amazing. This is some kind of restaurant. Let me turn that off. So, I mean, check it out. Just big shout outs to all the people who are getting video out of this. Of course, you need to be safe and be careful. But you can see we're talking major damage down in Venezuela, all along the coast and in the surrounding cities. So that's where we started. This earthquake is where we first started. While I was doing the update on this, then a near 7.0 or 6.6 struck over here right next to New Caledonia at the mouth of Vanuatu and Solomon Island, Solomon Sea over to the west. Now, this is the halfway point that we were talking about just the other day, just when this big, deep 8 struck. So, the good news on this is that the earthquakes that are coming up are about a magnitude and a half less than the 8. But still, we're getting a magnitude less over here, and we're getting a magnitude less over here. It means that we're seeing a spread of large activity spread out. This is option number 2. Option number 1 was that we get a single larger earthquake, 1.1 magnitude larger than the 8.2, which would come into 9.3. So there were 2 options. One was a single larger earthquake. The other was a planet-wide disturbance. And I think we know which option Mother Nature took, the planet-wide disturbance. And it spread all the way down into New Zealand. And New Zealand hasn't even been hit yet, but it's going to. And same with over to the west in Indonesia and up in Japan. Now we're going to talk about our halfway silent points here. We need to get the warnings out to the people now so that they know what to look for. So here's what's happened. Since our big, deep quake right here, let's get all the other earthquakes out of there and just look at this one. Well, we can leave this one in just as a point of reference. So when this happened, it came up on the underside of the plate, the force from this event. It was down in an area called the asthenosphere, which is just a term to describe the magma down below the plate. So a big disturbance in the magma down below the plate puts force up on the underside of the whole plate. Now I'm going to turn on something here. It's a shell feature that reaches out across the Pacific, And this just shows us, well, again, this is an earthquake 3D feature, but it really does help. And you can see that, of course, it encompasses the whole of the Pacific going right over to the border of our other ring. Now, the other ring spreads out from the 7 that just struck. So the areas around the Pacific are all being displaced. Imagine this like a bubble of pressure coming up from down below the plate. So a big bubble of pressure coming up. And here, let me look through the Earth this way. Okay, so you might be able to see it a little bit better now. So looking through the Earth this way, and we can even turn on the grid, it just gives us a better point of reference here to look through the planet. So down below this location is where I want you to imagine the pressure coming up like a giant dome of pressure. And when that dome of pressure comes up, it then spreads out and follows the plate boundaries and fractures in the plate. So it disturbed out to the east, and when it disturbed out to the east, we get ourselves the earthquakes striking across the areas that are disturbed. All right, and the earthquakes that spread across the areas that are disturbed are all of the same magnitude. Yesterday going into today, nothing but 5 spreading out across all the plates. And the 5s was just the first inundation. I told you guys, like a tsunami. First the water pulls out, then the first wave comes in. And whatever it is, the next wave is even bigger. And the next wave that's going through now is going up into the mid-range 7 over on one side and 7.0 on the other, or 6.6. We'll see if they bring that up or down ultimately. So we have 2 sets of big quakes happening on both sides, one all the way on one side of, well, actually South America being perturbed right where the plate meets the Atlantic. So the whole portion of South America displaced, and all the signs were there that something was going on earlier today because we had an outbreak. See all these earthquakes marked in a white and a pink here along the coast of Central America and South America? That was the accumulation. And look where our arrows point, our 2 big arrows. Look where the clusters of earthquakes are. At the tip of one arrow, you follow this arrow out. Guys, look where it points. Just keep following the arrow out. It goes right to where our big earthquake is, just south of it, right along the mountain range here. So, Venezuela and all Caribbean has been displaced from an event half a world away on what we would call the antipode of the plate, the opposite side of the plate. So it's not the opposite side of the planet, it's the opposite side of the plate. In other words, you get pushed up on one side, you get pushed down on the other, or pushed over on the other. And that's exactly what's happening here now. So to see this spread out to the west means we have force spreading out to the west as well. So let's get a look at the last 48 hours worth of quakes. There we go. And looking at 48 hours, we have a giant open silent zone. Where? Papua New Guinea. Not just anywhere in Papua New Guinea. The direct center. Now look at this. Between this 6.9 and this 6.9. Okay, it's a 6.6 now, but between these 2 upper 6s, we have a fulcrum point, a middle point that is formed. Now this was in the forecast on Sunday night. We told you each one of these middle points would get hit. So when we see an area that's surrounded by big-time pressure on all sides, and it hasn't been hit, this is being sandwiched together. Think of a vice grip. That's a good analogy here. Or think of a standing wave tank. Here's another way to look at it. The standing wave tank. Let's go look up the standing wave tank video. Standing wave tank. Boom, top video. Now watch this. First, an initial wave goes out from one point to the other, basically simulating an earthquake here. So, but they're going through water. So the wave, little ripples start to go out just from a push on one of the walls or both of the walls. And the wave will go across the tank. Takes a few seconds for it to reach one side to the other. This is just in a wave tank. Now, you put a similar push or a bigger push in, and the waves, of course, keep going and build into each other. Now, they don't interfere with each other in the way you'd think they would. There's an interferometry that happens here where the waves build on top of each other, and what happens here is as you add more waves into the tank, it builds in what's called amplitude. Now, many people understand amplifiers for sound. Same principle, that we're adding more power into the smaller tank. Well, in an amplifier, you're adding just more power into a wire, right? Or into a circuit board. But as you add more power, it causes the amplitude, the peaks of the waves, to increase. But it builds on top of each other into what's called a standing wave. Okay, so a standing wave happens, we get equal distribution of the wave heights, with the biggest in the middle. So the biggest is the middle point, they'll call that the crest, and at the bottom we have the valley. So at the crest in the valley, and then or the peak and the valley. We go down here to the bottom of the wave, and we go, here is the bottom of the wave right now. But it's empty. Again, it's silent, but it's going to flux and push up. And at the middle, we will see the fulcrum point, the top of the wave, the crest of the wave, the combined total of both waves on both sides strike in the middle. That's just one example of a middle fulcrum point being hit. So we have time now to warn the people in Papua New Guinea, for instance, to let them know that they're sandwiched in between two upper sixes. Let's call them both 6.9s because that's really what they are. Two sets of 6.9s on either side, and the biggest, deepest quake we've ever seen just 48 hours ago, just over 48 hours ago now, or right at 48 hours, right here. So the big open silent zone right here at the tip of the arrow in Papua New Guinea is one of our areas that we have to watch in the next few days. But it's not the only area. This area at Lombok, well, right behind Lombok, is the next island, and the earthquakes have spread over to the east. Now, I have a warning going on the back side of here. But the silent zone is really technically over East Timor at this point. This is East Timor right here. This is Lombok. I mean, they're right next to each other, but I mean, if we're going to be specific about a silent zone and a middle point, it would be right here. And then the second silent zone, of course, is right here in between these two sets of quakes, which has been on the warning list for the last week and a half. Now, this spot here, east of Rinjani and east of Bali, seems to be catching all the pressure. So if I have a warning going, I'm going to issue it for right here, and then, we hope that it doesn't strike over in the middle of the fulcrum point here or here, that it would strike right back where we're expecting it to happen. Now, if you live, or we hope it doesn't hit at all, but if it's going to hit, that we hope it hits right where we're looking for so that people there can be ready. We have to tell everybody from East Timor over to Central Java that there's a potential of another earthquake, because they all felt it this past time. Java was shaken up, Bali was shaken up. Of course, the area at the location was shaken up at the epicenter, but going out in about 200 miles in each direction, which is 400 miles total across.
By the way, Rey Mysterio is not on the game. I had to create him. The tattoos and everything, along with his moves and his mask and his everything. Enjoy. I hope y'all enjoy it, because I made 2 of Rey Mysterios. Hopefully you'll get to see the next one if he beats Goldust. Enjoy. WCW.
Felt the area hit. So when we're talking about 200 miles, I'm trying to get it within 200 miles of the epicenter. And that would be, I guess, 400 miles in each total across the entire area. So, and that's the size of an area that can be affected by a large earthquake like this. A 7 can totally affect a 400 square mile area. Certainly can. Or linear mile, linear mile. All right, so where are we? One more time, let's recap. The largest earthquake in, years has struck in North Venezuela, right at the mouth of the Caribbean. It's traced back to where our biggest, deepest earthquake that we've ever seen struck just a couple days ago. And we told you 7 days to 10 days of a watch was going to be issued off this. We're 2 days in, and look what's happened. Boom, and going over to the west, boom. And it's spread out. 5s were the first wave on this. They already went across the whole planet. It went from 8s to 5s, 5s, then down to 4s, and then down to 3s. Over here to the north, 3.3 and 3.7. All of our X's have been hit across. X marks the spot right on the money for each one of these. So it's a big compression event going on right now from down below the plate. Do not ignore it. Now, off the west coast of the United States, we got a near 5 or a mid-range upper 4 striking directly in our warned area. Last night, this was a topic of discussion. I showed this area and told you, look, it's a middle fulcrum point between Haida Gwaii and Vancouver, and we talked about the fires just to the east. So the earthquakes and the fires we talked about the lack of earthquakes, and we talked about the fires just to the east of the volcanoes, and we told you that this is the middle fulcrum point, and it's been weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks since it's been hit with anything like this. Now here it is. In day 1 of this event, we see the fulcrum points of each spot get filled in. Now that a new 4.6 is struck up here, you can certainly bet an increase in California. And California, guys, off the coast this week, we're looking for something up to 6, mid-range 6. That's right, mid-range 6 could happen. You shouldn't be shocked by mid-range 6s when the Caribbean is getting hit with a mid-range 7, and 7s or mid-range 6s are spreading out across the plate now. And we have our biggest, deepest earthquake that we've ever seen. So you shouldn't be shocked if you see an increase on the west coast. But it doesn't just stop on the northwest. it's absorbed by California and the plate and taken down to Southern California, where we have a giant open silent zone across the LA basin now. The area to the south is moving with major swarms. Let me show it to you. If you live in California, you guys get warning signs before you're hit with anything of any significant size. The warning signs are, 1, your dormant volcanoes begin to swarm with earthquakes. 2, your drill points, oil, gas, geothermal, start to swarm with the similar sized earthquakes. Then the connecting fault zones between them start to light up with lines of quakes and diagonal lines following the fault zones. And then your nuclear test sites start to swarm. When all of, and yes, nuclear test sites right down in South Nevada, fracture points where humans have blasted in the ground. These spots all start to move simultaneously, okay? That lets you know California has absorbed a lot of force. Where's the force coming from? It's coming from up here, where we just got a 4.6. But geysers up here in Northern California is like a pressure gauge. The more activity that's at geysers, the more force that's coming in. The less activity that's at geysers, the more force that's building out here to be released to then come in and re-excite geysers. Well, geysers is going down, which means there's force building out here off the coast. The slow slip started to die out last night, and now it's released some of its energy on the northern tip. But that's just the tip of this. That's just a 4.6. Going across the rest of the edge of the plate, what you're going to see are lines of earthquakes going following what we call the North American craton edge. The craton is just the geologist word for the interior portion of the plate, and I put the black arrows on here just to indicate which way force is coming in from the west coast. So this seismic force is pushing in from the west coast, going to the Midwest, and we have force coming up from the south with these big disturbances now happening down south at, well, actually, let me show it to you here. Oh, wait, I have to turn on a different feed. There was a 6.1 that struck here 4 days ago, right here at the Panama-Costa Rica border. So 7.3, 6.1, big disturbance down to the south, pushes up on the edge of the craton from the south. Now, all of a sudden, instead of coming out of the Midwest, out of the fracking operations and oil pumping operations of Oklahoma, we've got a swarm coming up from the south. Mississippi has already been hit a couple days ago. Now here we are with this. So on the west coast, though, our stack, look at our huge stack of quakes. These are all microquakes, but they're all on the slow slip down at Anza Gap and now the San Andreas. Yes, the San Andreas has finally started to move after, well, weeks and weeks, or maybe even more months without any major motion. So now we're starting to see a little swarm breakout down here on the location next to Anza Gap. Now that matters. It really does. The diagonal quakes here goes all the way up into the split at South San Joaquin Valley. This is a geothermal pumping operation at a volcano called Cozo Junction. Now they have it listed as Little Lake, California, and yes, there is a little lake nearby somewhere, but it's out in the middle of basically Death Valley type area. We'll show it to you here. Here we go. So they have it at Lake, but clearly we're on the bottom of Volcano Peak, right? I mean, you see the volcano, you see the lava flows go down, and now there's a geothermal pumping operation right here. These are all geothermal pumps. Well, let's see if it loads. You'll be able to see the turbines as soon as this thing loads. There we are. Turbines, pipelines. Pipelines go to drill points. Drill points go down into Cozo Volcanic Field. So Cozo Volcanic Field here. And the earthquake on the newest of the bunch, Volcano Peak. But there's others next to it. Look at these cinders next to it. This is older. You can tell they're older. Look at the color on the lava flow. Dark black versus covered in sand black. So these are older. This is the youngest. Little swarm breaking out there. Up to the north, Mammoth Mountain. This is another volcano and a geothermal pumping operation at Mono Lake on the north part of Long Valley Caldera, which is a supervolcano. Did you guys know they just announced this? That there's a supervolcano at the California-Nevada border, and they've confirmed it now. Long Valley, right here, and I'll click on this for the Smithsonian. They're going to need to change this. It's a supervolcano with 240 cubic miles of melt down below as of new Earth-penetrating tomography measurements released this past week or 2 weeks ago. So this is a supervolcano. They confirmed it. And Mono Lake next to it. Look, it's the same size. It's the same shape. They just haven't confirmed it yet. So we're swarming out right across here. And there's a geothermal turbine right in the middle of this whole hot mess where our earthquake is. So here again, here's Long Valley Caldera. And here is the geothermal turbine right here. turbines, plural, and again, it's a spot where they've drilled into the upper reaches of the magma chamber to get that steam in excess to turn the turbines. So we get over here along the coast and we have another diagonal line of quakes. We have a 1.1 in Bay Area and a 1.6 and 0.5 to the south of Monterey Bay. East of Monterey Bay, the largest movement of the day, and north of Monterey Bay, basically the middle of this now. This is somewhat normal now for the San Andreas creeping section. The middle point will get hit with the largest amount of movement. Now that was kind of breaking its own rule, or the rule that we were following on this for many, many weeks, if not months. And it started to flare up going down to the south. Well, when it flared up down to the south, look what took it. So it buffeted up against here, and now the slow slip is breaking out along the edge of the plate. The plate is in major motion down here. Slow slip, well, it's a term used by professionals to describe when one or more plates starts passing side by side one another. So the slow slip is picking up in pace. Why? Why is the slow slip suddenly picking up in pace? Well, anybody who's been paying attention would know.
Obama came in office.
In the United States, let's get our 7-day feed turned back on. We're looking up to the northwest, then we're looking down to LA. And today is Tuesday. We have till Sunday night. Actually, even beyond that, till Tuesday, basically. We still have another week. We have 8 more days to go in this watch for the whole Pacific. And when I say the whole Pacific, I mean it. Look for our silent zones. Here's another one right here. Silent zone, Baja California, Mexico. Middle point. Let's go further over to the west. Let's warn a few more areas. I mean, I'm going to be on after this, but when we look across Indonesia, for instance, this middle point here, seriously under stress. When we go up to the north, the middle point here, under serious stress. Central Philippines, along the coast. Another point where we're going to see a release. How big? Likely to go up into the 6 range. Maybe even upper 6. Look what's happening around the rest of these. If this is holding true and upper 6 is going to be the number we're going with, then it's going to be upper 6s going all the way up, and we're going to see a combined total then strike on the coast of Japan of all these upper 6s. And you take several upper 6s and you add them together, it starts equaling a 7. So is Japan going to get hit with a 7? Again, I'm in uncharted waters. I do not have examples to go on with this big, deep quake. So it is really a learning curve for me, and I want you guys to be ready. Silent zone in Japan, let's determine that one here so we can get the people in Japan on board here. Looking at 48 hours worth of quakes, there's only a few spots that need to be filled in. So it would look like the...
So you might want to take notes, everyone. California, Japan. Come on, go on. Come on, do some more. Come on. I'm like Kyle Busch. I need to do the little bow to y'all.
Well, what is this? The Bonin Islands? Is this the Bonin Islands? The Ryukyu Islands. Ryukyu Islands. Okay, so south of Japan.
Speaking of Kyle Busch, if you've not heard, Kyle Busch got punched in the face by a NASCAR fan since Mark Truex Jr. didn't want to hit him because he didn't want to get points deducted or money. He paid a fan to knock him out, which it's about time.
And would be one spot I would look right here in the middle point between Taiwan and Philippines and South Japan. There's several eruptions happening at Sakurajima, which may be playing into this, which would then put our other spot up here to the north. Up here in North Japan, we would look between the coast of Honshu.
Oh yeah, by the way, Roadkill, I created him from the ECW legend. Enjoy.
And all the way up where our 2 or 3 eruptions are happening at Ebako. So we would, again, need to warn North Japan and Kuril Islands. Look, I mean, this is so ad hoc right now. So I'm warning these middle fulcrum points, and if we're going with 6s, then it's going to be 6s. Now, if they combine into something larger, that's why I want you to have a larger earthquake plan by 1 magnitude. So if I warn you for a 5...
I've been warning you for an earthquake plan since New Year's Eve. What, 7 months ago?
I want you to be ready for a 6. And if I warn you for a 6, I want you to be ready for a 7, just in case. We are not playing around.
No,
this
we're
is not being done for social
media. We're not playing around.
Or anything like that.
We're serious, folks.
Self-promotion, whatever.
We're serious.
You can even leave my name out of it. If you know people that live in Papua New Guinea, here's what you tell them. They are sandwiched in between two big sets of quakes, and we have the biggest, deepest quake pushing up underneath them to top it all off. And if you know somebody up in Japan, let them know. Big motion coming up from the south. Look which way our arrows point.
He's not going to say it. I'm going to. Wormwood is pushing all these planets together. And they're in a line, folks. And another 20 more days left. And then we're on the 28th, folks. Remember the movie Super Volcano? That volcano erupted on the 28th. Not sure what month or day. We just know it was the 28th. And as we're closing in on the 28th, and all this is happening now, 7 days left. Sure is funny that the NWO is trying to make a lot of movement. And I'm the Stinger. And I'm Scorpion Death Drop in the NWO. Ain't that right, Clinton? Ain't that right, Barack Hussein Obama? Ain't that right, George Soros? Ain't that right? Am I beat slapping you in the face, NWO? Yes, I am. And so is Dutch Sense, which Dutch Sense don't have the balls to tell you that the NWO is geoengineering everything right now because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. If you've not noticed, every time Trump does something, the NWO does it with the weather. Wake up, people.
Point. This is the way force flows along the plate boundaries. You're an accumulation point where the combined total of everything coming from down here transfers up, across, and slams into your coast. So don't ignore it. And the whole country of Japan would need to be warned on this, because once we start dealing with the 7, everybody from Tokyo all the way up to Hokkaido feels it. Same with over to the west. We get into Indonesia. Look, everybody from East Timor all the way over to Central Java needs to be on watch. And it's not an exaggeration. They'll all feel it. It'll catch them off guard. They'll think it's the end of the world, or that it's another huge earthquake, when really it's the one right in the middle. The people in the middle that need to be the ones that watch for the biggest movement. While everybody else goes, we don't want people to go into panic mode. Do not be scared at this point. Now we understand the basic motion is starting to take place, that these middle fulcrum points are going to be our spots to watch. We go over to Europe, the same thing applies. We get over here, you see a big giant open silent zone across China. For my viewers in China, Nepal, India, North India, now let's be specific about that. India goes all the way over to here, and then this is the main land of India. So it has a little border region that opens back up. The halfway fulcrum point between all this movement over in, North Afghanistan here, and over here in Sumatra, halfway point. Not as a crow flies as we go around the bend. Look, this puts everybody from eastern Nepal across India, going down into Myanmar. That's a spot to watch. And we also have another spot to watch. I mean, this keeps going and going and going. So every middle fulcrum point is going to get hit. Well, there's another middle fulcrum point. Between what? We're looking right here on the coast of Myanmar. But a fulcrum point between earthquakes a few days back. This one, if we add this one in, the middle fulcrum point is here, and the other middle fulcrum point is right here. So, again, do I incorporate in the 4.8 from just over 48 hours ago? Or if I take it out, then this makes this the new fulcrum point. So that's why we need to warn all these people. It is shaking the whole planet. It's like, think of a lake full of ice, and there's fractures across those pieces of, the giant slab of ice that's broken. And then a giant wave comes in from underneath and starts to shake them all up at once. It normally wouldn't happen this way. It would normally be one sheet of ice pressing against the other and causing a chain reaction. But instead, we get a disturbance from down below, and we see it come up on all sides at once. It's a truly amazing thing to see happen right now. This is why I'm stressing this so hard for you guys to be ready. When we get over to Europe, you're not going to escape this either. Same with the United States. We're not going to be escaping the brunt on this over the next 8 days. 10-day watch, 2 days in, look what's going on. Not an exaggeration. Down in New Zealand, let me show you where we got a warning going for you. Now that you've gotten a 6.6 to 6.7 up to your north, this should be a wake-up call that you may be looking at a 6.6 to 6.7 down here off the coast. Oh wait, a new earthquake has just struck, hold on. A new 4-point-something just struck off the northern eastern coast of New Zealand. Hold on. As I'm talking about it, no way. Oh. Cue up the Twilight Zone music. 2236. Oh my gosh. A new 4.1 has just popped up here off the eastern coast of New Zealand. Look at that. So again, this is going to be from GeoNet. It may be a larger earthquake or smaller, but hey, just I was getting ready to show you. Okay, so this is